3, 2, 1.
Never has there been a better time to be alive in human history. If you're not feeling it, you must discover why. Join Matthew Bolton in developing and applying a framework of objective optimism toward a flourishing life of meaning, health, and happiness. Here's your host, Matthew Bolton.
Hi everybody, welcome to Mr. Brightside. I'm Matthew Bolton. Today's show is an interview with guest Donna Hoffman, who's an interior designer, but she's also an interior design coach. The people she instructs or coaches, her community, are known as design divas, of whom there are over 100,000. After this interview, I might put myself in the camp of design divo, because I just learned so much about how to think about my home. And this is why I invited her in the first place. I was really taken by the way she thinks about interior design. It's not just telling you what the latest trends are and what's going on, although she knows all about that. It's about how she fundamentally thinks about color and light and space and windows and accessories and everything about your home. She thinks of it as a place that can really affect your life for better or worse, what she would call environmental psychology, which we touch on, among many other things. She can tell you how to find your design fingerprint, and I just look forward to re-listening to this myself, because I have to go back and think about so many things, because I'm always thinking about how I can make my home a better place that expresses what I'm about and is a beautiful place for me to live in, that gives me comfort, convenience, and joy. So I just think this was such a great interview. I was a fantastic, fabulous guest, and I just I can't recommend this interview enough. I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. Hi everybody, welcome now to our interview. I'm joined by Donna Hoffman, a multi-award-winning interior designer based in Pennsylvania, USA. Donna's company, Interiors by Donna Hoffman, specializes in new construction, renovation, whole home, and full room design, delivering livable luxury to discerning clients. Seen in Forbes, Real Simple, TV, and radio, Donna is considered a design thought leader. Prior to founding Interiors by Donna Hoffman and the Interior Design Advocate, Donna was a leading TV show host at QVC Network. Donna founded her innovative brand, the Interior Design Advocate, TIDA, we'll call it, providing online education and coaching to design enthusiasts across the world. TIDA at theinteriordesignadvocate.com has earned Donna the title of America's #1 design coach. Through TIDA, Donna provides online courses that empower DIYers in the US and beyond with innovative design strategy, leading them to surprise themselves with the amazing results they create in their own home. Donna instructs her design divas on methods and strategies to get an upscale look without the killer price tag. To date, she has taught over 100,000 design divas. Donna asks, why DIY when you can DWO? That's decorate with others. Donna, thanks very much for joining us here today.
Sure, I'm exhausted just listening to you say all that. Where did I get the time?
I don't know. Well, you're very busy. You're doing something, and you're doing something well to have all this going on. First off, I want to ask you about that. What does it mean to decorate with others versus DIY?
Yeah, so here's the story. We would have, and this is a little bit of the background of TIDA, or the Interior Design Advocate. We would have people call our company. We're a luxury design company and boutique where, we have a certain size, and people would we couldn't help them because we couldn't take them on soon enough, or they would hear our pricing and say, that doesn't really work for our budget. And they'd feel badly when they'd reach that conclusion. So I told my team, listen, I really want to help more people. I feel like DIY design lovers are getting screwed by the design machine, the DIY design machine. Everybody's out there by themselves, gathering information, Pinteresting themselves to death, Googling everything, and kind of getting into a lot of troubles to the point, Nat, where House did a survey, as reported in a big magazine called Elle Decor. 98% of design lovers, 98% reported that they're not happy with their design results. So here are all these people working on their own in their own little vacuum, frustrated, spending time, money, effort, things aren't going so well. So we started the Interior Design Advocate so women wouldn't feel alone. There are men in our tribe also, our divas, but we got a lot of mostly divas. And amazingly, our community has not only responded so well to the way I teach design, the way I put together these online courses, but it's the community that they love, because all of my courses, there are 3 of them, each has its own private Facebook group. So you're not alone anymore. You can post pictures and questions, and the whole community can, pop in and help you. So yeah. DIY, do it yourself, versus DWO, decorate with others. Easy choice for us.
Right, very easy. And you obviously get a lot better. I bet you have a lot more satisfied people than 98% dissatisfied, because they're getting to ask a question about it, get a lead, get some help. I mean, I love the sound of that.
Get the strategy behind things. Design is not just a bunch of one-off random nebulous ideas. Design is really, when you do it right, it's very strategic, it's very logical. And my students, they're not professionals. They amaze themselves with what they can create using what I teach in my online courses, which thrills me to no end. And some of them actually do go on and say, hey, I want to become a professional now. But our point and purpose is really to not create professionals, but to help people create the home environment that they wish they could and didn't ever dream that they would be able to.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the sound of all of that. I'm going to go on here. I mean, people might wonder why, Matthew, do you have an interior designer on your show, right? This show, we talk about optimism on the show, which I mean, living an optimal life. So we talk a lot about physical, mental health, relationships, productivity, psychology, philosophy. Basically, how do we live the best possible life in all respects? Well, I think that the spaces we live in affect all other aspects of our lives.
You bet.
They facilitate or frustrate them, depending on how you have things set up. Now, I had an early show, not an interview, but sometimes I do solo shows where I just talk about a topic and go out. It was called Create Your Own Environments. And on that, I encourage listeners to be very deliberate about the spaces they live in, about choosing how do you organize, even decorate and light your spaces, setting you up for optimal productivity, obviously, like things that you need to do, but also for comfort and enjoyment too. Now, I didn't really have any great practical advice on how to do that from that point. And this is where you can come in, right? I think that, living an optimal life includes beauty, right? I want to have a beautiful life. Mm-hmm. So I want to help people love everything about themselves and about their lives. And this includes loving their home and all the spaces they live in. So I have a broad question to kick us off, Donna. How can someone start to love the home they live in?
Sure. You're actually touching on something near and dear to my heart, which is environmental psychology. Studies have been done that show hands down that our environments absolutely affect the way we feel in our skin every day, the way we function. And you absolutely want to, I call it stacking the deck. Why not stack the deck so you can live your best life? And we believe, we joke around here about improving life one room at a time. But truly, what you want to do to start this process, I think you want to educate yourself, and I think you want to get off the merry-go-round of one-off ideas. You read all the blogs. I blog, 300-word blog post, 400-word blog post. You can't really say a lot in 400 words, nothing meaningful to really move the needle. So I think getting some education, whether I'm the right coach for somebody or find another online coach, I think getting your hands on some good online design education is a game changer. I've seen it for people, because it's not about what you spend, it's about what you do with what you spend. And definitely cutting through the clutter, not just the idea clutter, but even the clutter in your environment, opens you up to starting to build an environment that feels great to you versus the guy down the street or the woman across down the block, because everybody has a unique design fingerprint. Your design fingerprint would be different than somebody else's, even if you had the same style, even if you both like modern or you both like transitional. Living underneath that and understanding what your design fingerprint is enables you to start stacking the deck, loading your environment with things that you absolutely love. And by your design fingerprint, I'll tell you, what I mean by that is how you uniquely relate to things like line, form, shape, color, texture, pattern, placement, just to name a few things. How you need color mapped and run through a space. What colors you crave, what colors you just don't function well around at all, don't care for. When you know your design fingerprint, what to put in your environment becomes a lot more clear. And then how to put together the environment, that's some of the strategy I teach as well. So I teach people how to identify their unique design fingerprint. It's a game changer. And then I put them into strategic design thinking, and you combine those two things and amazing things start to happen in your environment.
Wow. Well, this
that was a long answer, but it's a passionate question you gave me. It resonates with one of my passions.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is what drew me to have you on, because it's like, okay, I could ask somebody about interior design, but the way you come at it, it's not a one-off. It's about fundamentally thinking about why are environments important? How does that affect our lives? And then what are the fundamental strategies that we can use to discover our own styles, etc.
Yeah, here's an interesting statistic. Ceiling height alone. A study was done that showed that when people were in a work environment with a very high ceiling, it expanded their creative thinking. But when they were in an environment that had a lower ceiling, it expanded and supported more detailed thought and thinking. So think about it. Let's say you're working from home and you're an accountant or financial planner. And let's say you're doing an addition on your home and the builder says, hey, you want your office to be a two-story, we can vault this, we can make this a two-story. Well, if you're an accountant and a detailed person, detailed number crunching, you might say, you know what, I don't think, I might want that in my relaxing space, put that in my living room, that vaulted ceiling. But in my own study, I think I want to have that ceiling a little, like give me a regular 8 foot or 9 foot. So a lot has been studied about how to maximize people's performance and mood through environment.
Yes, I got it. I can already see I'm re-listening to this anyway when I'm editing, but I'm going to be re-listening to this to make sure I get all these good stuff. I mean, I can see it happening already. I guess, let's see then. That's no good anymore. Well, what is trending now? Well, it really isn't. You've just answered it. It's like, that's irrelevant now. What is trending in interior design these days?
Sure. Well, great question. So the good news is that there's never a single design trend happening at the moment. There are always multiple trends developing worldwide. And trends don't just, develop and then they drop dead. What they do is they develop, they, maybe plateau for a while, then they morph and they start to rise again, then they turn a little bit twist direction, and then they start to rise again. So there's a cycle to a trend, and there are always multiple trends happening at any time. I can talk to you about those. But interestingly too, different countries have different trend style preferences. And within a single country, like the US, for example, different trend styles are more popular in different regions. So it's kind of a thick conversation. So in terms of what's trending right now, modern always is a safe bet. Mid-century modern just holds its place. Modern design always holds its place. Here in the United States, transitional design is sort of a blend between traditional and transitional, still holding its weight, not going away. Traditional design doesn't go away. It's just never the newest thought, the newest thing. And the way it changes is that within a trend, you can have different colors that are trending, different shapes and silhouettes that are trending. So traditional today looks different than traditional 20 years ago. It's still traditional, but the color palettes changed, the silhouettes of furniture changed. Some things happening in the US right now and parts of Europe. Boho can either be kind of industrial looking or it can be kind of chic, shabby chic, like Parisian boho. So those are some, and modern farmhouse is having a very big moment right now, particularly in the United States. And it's interesting, farmhouse had its moment and then it started to morph into more modern farmhouse and it got a little industrial looking. Rustic has been having a moment. Rustic started to turn into rustic glam. So like I said, a trend style starts to kind of morph and take on some new steam and some new energy. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it's very curious, all of that. And that's probably true in other things. Would you say that's true in other things other than design, trends in music and fashion? I mean, it's not your expertise, but
Oh yeah. Well, fashion. Picture two wheels. Fashion is a smaller wheel and it turns faster. Interior design is a big wheel, so it takes longer for it to make a single revolution.
yeah.
So fashion trends move a lot faster, year to year, season to season sometimes. Interior design trends can take between 7 and 10 years to really develop and then start to soften and take their nose dive. And certainly with the advent of the information age that we're in, a lot of people argue that trends are now taking more like 7 years in interior design. And some people think as little as 5. And I'm not biting off on that one. But I do think we're not solidly at 10 years for a design trend to develop, morph, and then take its swan dive. I think 7 to 10 is a good estimate on that.
Right. Okay. And I'm curious about that a little in something I have for a little later, maybe. How would you facelift a room with great results? If we just want to facelift, how do we do any of that?
Yeah. So I actually have one of my online courses is called Design CPR, Creating Perfect Rooms with Accessories. Yeah. And I think that I know that there is so much overlooked power in accessorization, and accessorization in a room is tied to not just the decorative accoutrement you put on top of the furnishings, but it also has a little bit to do with your paint color, has a little bit to do with your lighting. If you want to do a really low cost and fast design facelift to a room, amazing things can be done by shoring up your accessories, all of those decorative elements, tabletop, wall art, etc. But believe it or not, something I teach in this course, your furniture layout has everything to do with the success of your accessorization, your room styling. If you blow it, if you screw it up on your furniture layout, you're never going to get that Pinterest beautiful result, that fabulous feeling result, fabulous looking result. So design, like I said, is so strategic, and it's all these parts and components are interconnected. But the fastest and lowest cost way to facelift a room is always to shore up what you already have, shore up the furniture layout that you already have, guarantee, willing to bet, and I'm not a betting woman, but I'm willing to bet that people watching and listening right now have made some key and common mistakes in their layout. You straighten out your layout, you learn how to rock your accessorization, and you decide if your paint color is right. If it isn't, you do a quick facelift change on that, and my gosh, you have a phenomenally redone room with a very low cost.
All right. Well, I've got something on all these little things you mentioned: color, light, furniture, and I wanted to kind of hit those things each and something about it. Maybe furniture. Yeah. Especially if the layout's so important. I kind of tend to agree, but although I don't know about it as you do, but I have an idea that furniture must be so important, the layout. How do you think about furniture in general, before I ask you more specific questions about it?
Well, something that's drilled into our heads in design school is function first, then beautiful. I had a professor, a design teacher, who said, you got to nail the function, because if you put together a room that doesn't function well, your clients will be throwing darts at your picture, no matter how beautiful it looks. So furniture is part of the function, right? Mm-hmm. It's how a room allows you to perform in it. It's how traffic flow, meaning you walking through the space and your guests and your family. So furniture affects how you move through space. The feng shuiists believe that furniture also affects how the energy moves around a space. As a designer, I also, at this point it's very intuitive for me, but I also look at how furniture broadcasts the weight through the space. So the space feels balanced as you're in it, as you look at it, and as you look past it into adjoining spaces. So furniture is the bones of the room. Like I said, you screw up your layout, you're kind of in deep trouble. And the place where it gets a little trickier for design lovers is blending different furniture styles, right? Because I'm sure you too have accumulated different items through your life, and being able to determine what looks well with other things, what styles blend well together, which styles don't blend as easily together. So furniture it's a deep dive, and also I think the furniture market today is scary for consumers. On the race to lower consumer pricing,
Yeah.
manufacturers they're not cutting out their profit margin. They're pulling out quality from the manufacturing process. And at the very top level, at the luxury end, best performance, highest price product, I don't think that's as much of an issue. But in the mid-tier prices and the entry-level prices, it's incredible to me what's happening out there. It really is. So I think buyer be aware is really important in furniture purchasing. We always teach, Google anybody before you purchase furniture from them. I don't care if they're an online resource or a brick and mortar. Google complaints against so-and-so, the store. And if it's a brand you're investigating, complaints against brand X. In fact, complaints against brand X's sofas, and see what comes up. And if you see problems, stay away.
All right, then. So how can we generally think about like the differences in cost and quality? What should we be looking for? I mean, obviously you've given me a good advice there, Google people, but I mean, especially you said entry-level stuff, mid-level stuff. What are we looking for? Why is it so expensive? Why is this one better than that one? How are we supposed to know? You can know.
The bottom line is that furniture it's a pain in the butt to make. It's complicated. It's a lot of moving parts. I always joke that, furniture costs more than anybody wants it to, wishes it would, or thinks it should, because it's expensive to manufacture. You're pulling together components from, in many cases, all over the world. Then they have to be assembled. And now you've got this giant, 250-pound sofa that is X many cubic feet. So just shipping it and moving it around is really hard. You, the consumer, pay for all of that. So here's what I always tell people. Think of the furniture world like a staircase. Bottom couple of steps are your entry-level priced goods. These are goods that are made quickly, lower skilled labor, delivered at a lowest cost price, and using lowest cost manufacturing processes because they're fast. That's how they can pump out a lot and keep that pricing low. And then you've got your mid-tier, which is trying to protect price, keep it as low as possible for a consumer while trying to aspire to looking like better made furniture, bench made, handmade things. And then at the top tier, that's your bench made product. A lot of it is handmade, a lot of it in the United States. Italy is doing some good stuff, France, a little bit coming out of England, a little bit of Spain, but the US is actually considered a leader in fine furniture production still. In terms of lowest cost and lower cost product, a lot of that production went to China, but also Vietnam, bit in India, bit in Pakistan, but China, Vietnam, and with the tariffs stuff going on, I don't want to get political. Manufacturers saw this coming, and so a lot of them tried to pull production out of China and get it into Vietnam with greater or lesser success. So what do you look for as a consumer? I think you have to just be really wary. If it looks too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
And what might be a problem with that? If it's too good to be true, and I get it, does it mean it's going to fall apart or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not going to be comfortable. Yeah. So on a sofa, what is it going to mean? It means that it could be really uncomfortable if you're buying it online. Just might be built so it's a little shallow. Yeah. That's one way to save money, right? You make everything a little smaller. So if you're a 6 foot tall guy, you're not going to be happy in this sofa you found on Wayfair.
I'm not. Yeah.
Okay, we'll say some other guy
I
really
know.
tall. But so
there are tall people listening.
Yeah. So your cushion quality goes down. It's either very stiff sit or what we start to see in the lowest end, quality wise, cushions start to compress really badly. And I could name some brand names. I don't want it because I'll get sued, but some really well-known catalogers and online resources that put out a very popular look. I've seen this furniture after a year. It looks like some of these sofas were in a frat house, and they're not zero cost things, but they're just made so poorly that the cushions turn into pancakes. Therefore, the fabric looks all wobbly and wonky. You can get splitting in your frame. You can get cracks in your frame. You have seams that start to open up. And the sofas just look really dog-eared. They'll start to sag in the center. So that's what you can start to see at the lowest end for upholstery. And then for case goods, which is wood furniture, you see veneers just start to chip and pop, and that the veneer is so thin that it's just a mess by the time it gets to your place. Or after you put something down on it, with a little bit of wear, you start to see problems happening. And some manufacturers try to cover the problem rather than fix it. I interviewed somebody for a book I was working on, and she worked for a really well-known furniture retailer, and she said, oh, we had a problem with a desk that was coming in. People would put a cup down and they'd get a water ring. There was no water on the cup, but if the cup was made out of plastic, it would leave a weird ring.
Oh.
Rather than fixing the finish, management said, well, let's just pop a piece of glass on the top of that. So they didn't even fix it. They just look for a quick, Band-Aid on the whole thing.
Right. Okay. Well, buyer beware. That's what we've got over there.
Buyer beware and aware. Yeah.
And aware. Beware and aware. I like it. Window treatments in general. So I think myself, windows are so important. I have this idea. I tell my wife, if we build a house, I want just windows around the whole place, and you can choose to cover them. We got curtains or the electronic one, whatever.
Yeah.
And I want the option. I just love them. So how do you think about windows generally? What's up with windows?
Yeah. Love, one of the trends that we're seeing of these, this love of steel frame windows, that black, window with the black mullions in it, the black casing. Listen, windows are phenomenal. You pay, whether it's a rent check or mortgage, you pay for all that glass. They're expensive to treat. There's glare to control. There's light to block out if you're the kind of person who needs to sleep with blackout linings and such. Window treatments are expensive. They just are. They're a ton of labor when they're done at a private custom way, and if they're done in ready-made, they can look a little skimpy looking. But there are ways around it. I'm not trying to do cheap plugs, but I do have a course called Window Boss, and in that course we teach people how to plan and select their perfect window treatments, even if you're purchasing, at retail. But there are tricks that we have installers teaching about how to bulk up your ready-made window treatment so they look like you spent thousands of them on them, for their custom workroom. So window treatments they're complicated to do and to do well. And every room that people love on Pinterest house those window treatments are custom, because very hard to find at retail things that will work along all of the windows in your home. It's never about just the one window. You know what I mean? I
see. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's very helpful. I mean, I don't even know how to start to think about windows, and that's what I'm looking for here.
You want to think about your windows, Matthew. It's never about one window. It's about all the windows in the room, right? So you might have a sliding glass door and two single windows and a bay window. That's what you're dressing in that room, not just the one window. People say to me, how do I dress my bay window? Well, what else is around it? It's never about one window. It's about everything around it. Different heights. Things are always ending at different heights. How are you going to, even that out? It's a more complicated answer, and I need visuals to be able to teach you the real answer on it now.
Yeah, of course. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how about color? What are some general principles about color you can share with us?
Yeah. Color is dynamic. Color doesn't just sit there like your coffee mug or my water glass, right? Meaning color is doing something to you. It's putting a pressure onto you and onto your room. Dark color moves toward you and seems to take up space. So if you want to shrink up a space, you put a lot of dark color in it. You'll just pull it all in and cozy it up. Light color is called receding, and that moves away from the eye, and it seems to give up space. So you want to make your kitchen feel bigger. If you paint your cabinets white, that effect of that receding color will give the illusion of creating more space. Yep. So you can use that as a principle if you want to raise a ceiling or drop a ceiling. Why would you want to drop a ceiling? Well, maybe you live in a home where it just feels a little oversized to you, or the ceiling height in one particular room feels a little cavernous. If you put a little depth up on that ceiling, you'll pull it down a little bit.
Maybe you're trying to do work in an office or something, like as you mentioned.
There you go. That's right. Exactly right. So color is dynamic, and color is affected by the thing it sits next to, right? So you can turn red into a very intense color based upon what you put it next to, or you can quiet it down a little bit based upon what you put it next to.
What's
And
an
that's
example
true
of that?
all the colors. Yeah. So did you ever see a picture of a color wheel? It looks like
Maybe.
a rainbow of color just
Yeah,
going in
yeah,
a
yeah.
circle. Yeah. So, and that looks like something you're thinking, oh, like did a kindergartner just make that up and just color it all in? No, it's actually, color wheel is actually aligned in a particular, I think, very mathematical color math kind of way.
Mhm.
And every color has a position on the color wheel.
Mhm.
And if you take a color on the wheel and you put it next to its opposite on the wheel, you excite it and make it bolder and louder. If, however, you take a color on the wheel, like red, and you put it next to a color that is sitting directly next to it, you quiet it down. So red sits right next to orange. If you put red next to orange, you quiet down that red a little bit. If you put red next to yellow, which is opposite, or red next to blue, which is opposite, it gets much more loud and screamy. So there's a lot more to color theory, which is why designers, we study color in school for at least one, sometimes 2 semesters. Sounds crazy and weird, I know, but we do.
No, it's not at all. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that color affects everything about your room and the space and what it looks like, your psychology, all kinds of things about color. What's trending in color these days? How about that?
Well, interestingly, because of this amazing thing, this thing called the 9 square, right? I'll pull it up. This thing called Instagram, right? With the 9 square, every Instagram, little teeny pictures. Because of Instagram, I think we're seeing a continuation of very light, white, washed out, bright spaces. Why?
Yeah, why?
Because we Instagrammers are taught and told that light images look best on Instagram because it's tiny. It's this little tiny 9 square, right? 9 images until you page up. So design consumers are just being bombarded with all of these images of these white kitchens, of these lightened up environments because they look really clean and crisp on Instagram. So we are seeing a continuation in terms of color of the white, the museum white wall, the gallery white wall, it's sometimes called, or the museum white wall. That as a color movement is continuing. The color blue in general continues to trend very strong. The furniture manufacturers are behind it. The wallpaper manufacturers are behind it, from navies to mid-tone blues to the soft pale gray blues. A couple of years ago at a major design show in Paris I attended, I saw that a little bit of black as a color splash was starting to pop out. And I thought, wonder if this is going to catch on. It has. The black and white kitchen, black pops here and there in an environment. And also goldenrod, this pretty gold color. I saw a little sniff of it at this show, and I thought, I wonder if that'll catch. It took about 3 years, but that we're starting to see that color around as well. Not seeing a lot of red, not seeing a ton of orange, yellow, not seeing it hugely. But blue is continuing to stay strong. Millennial pink, that blush color, still strong. Yeah, and there's a really pretty emerald green that's been gaining steam that we're using as well. But again, what I use in the luxury design industry, I would use really literally any color. When you're working on your own, you are more susceptible to the trends because you are purchasing what the stores are selling and what the store, buyer put into her assortment or his assortment for towels and rugs and plates and dishes and, and furniture.
How can someone start to think about what's good color good for them? Like how do we think about and discover that?
Yes. All right. I've got an assignment for you. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I want you, and if you're working with your wife, you mentioned you've got your wife too is thinking about all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to think about the room that you would love to redesign together. And I want you each to pull out, let's say 10 to 15 images, or start a file on House or Pinterest, but 10 to 15 images of rooms that you love, rooms that you just absolutely love. Don't look at each other's images. You can't cheat. Okay. I don't want you to affect her, and I don't want her to affect you. No, nobody can be bossed around in this. And then once you have your images pulled, I want you to kind of be a detective, and I want you to look at your images as far as color goes, and I want you to ask yourself the following. And you're going to write down the answers to this. That's important, Matt.
Yeah.
First is, what colors do I seem to be craving? You're just going to look at all of your images and look for the common thematics. What colors are you seeing in a majority? What colors do I seem to be craving? Here's the $1 million question. Ready? Where do I like my color? Where do I like my color? Do I like my color on the floor? Do I like it on the wall? Do I like it kind of on the horizontal plane on the furniture? Do I like it at the window? Sometimes people, write to me and say, Donna, I don't get it. I love the color X, and I just painted my bedroom X, and I hate the way the room feels. And then I take them through a little bit of this design fingerprint exercise that I have you doing here. And I discover, yeah, you do love color X, but you don't like it on the walls. You seem to like it in little pops, little accents and pillows on the bed, right? So man or woman, know thyself. So this color exercise alone is very, very powerful.
And I didn't write it, but I am gonna on the re-listen. I'm gonna get my wife out and we're doing it. I'm not. If you think I wasn't taking it seriously,
let me know how it goes. I love it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Because we think about this stuff a lot, all of these things, and we said some of the things. We use the word pop a lot. I say that. I go, how can we pop this? And we say that. I've said before to my wife too. I say, style follows function, because it's got to. We have a cat, for example, and we get furniture for the cat, and we're not trying to hide that a cat lives here. She lives here. It's her house, right? But yet, how does it fit? We don't just stick a scratcher right in the middle of the floor. We try to make it look pretty good,
That's right.
We're constantly thinking about how do we live, and then how can we style it up after that?
That's right.
Well, this is all great. How about light in general? How important is lighting? Because we're big on lighting. So give me that generally, what you got on light, and then maybe I'll see what I've got for you.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So there's a great design expression that where there is no light, there can be no beauty. Lighting is interesting. Lighting is one part function, right? You got to be able to see what you're doing in whatever space, kitchen, home office, bedroom, whatever. But it's also part of the jewelry of the room. So lighting is part furniture and it's part accessory. So it definitely needs your attention. And something that drives me bananas when I'm working with even favorite builders when they're building a home, when they select the lighting before I've even done the design for a client, how do you know what style, what jewelry we need until you purchase the dress, until you know what that dining room is going to look like, right? You can't pick out the light fixture. So with lighting in general, and this is not new, if anybody's been poking around on the web, this, but I'll repeat it. You need layered lighting. You need ambient lighting, which is a more general lighting that could be, very often that's done as, recessed lighting. And then you need accent lighting and task lighting. So task lighting would be the lamp I have here on my desk, so that when I'm, working and writing, I've got some additional light other than what my overhead is. And when you're talking about lamp lighting in a room, a good trick, a good rule of thumb is to triangulate your lighting. And what I mean by that is if you were to float up on the ceiling and look down, you want to try to make sure that the lamp lighting, whether it's floor lamp, table lamp, or most likely a combo, or it might all be table lamps, but that they're arranged in some sort of triangular form. It doesn't have to be a perfect, what is that, the isosceles, whatever. It doesn't have to be a perfect triangle. It can be like one of these kind of triangles, right? But you definitely want to kind of go boop, 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 to spread that that task lighting through the room. It creates a very handsome, moodier, a handsome, more well-dispersed light. And that exercise I gave you earlier about color, you can also look at your room images and say, what kind of lighting do I like? Some people I design for, they like very bright, evenly lit spaces, very well-dispersed lighting. I'm working with a couple now. She likes that kind of lighting. He likes when things get a little moody and edgy and, so you'll notice that if you know what to look for when you're looking at your inspiration images. So is there something more specifically I can say to you about lighting?
No, I guess, no, I mean, that was really what I was looking for. I guess then too, what are some, maybe some classic and trending styles of lighting fixtures, maybe fixtures particularly?
Sure. Yeah. So too bad we don't have visuals here, but these big round
Refer
open
people.
orbs and gold and globes. I mean, that's continuing to have a big, a big moment. We're starting to see some split finishes. So you'll see a fixture that's got some gold on it and some black metal, or some gold metal, some silver metal and some black metal. We're continuing to see some light fixtures that are made of wood, or look like wood, or wooden bead. We're seeing more decorative light fixtures being used in rooms other than what they were. I know when I was growing up as a kid, you had a dining room light over the dining room table and a decorative light over your kitchen table. But now, in the last couple of years, certainly, we continue to see this, there could be a beautiful decorative ceiling fixture in a living room, and in a home office, or two decorative fixtures in a home office. So we're seeing decorative lighting definitely expanding its use in the home. And of course, this is, if you're doing modern minimalist, you have less of that. Oh, really big, the Sputnik, the return of the Sputnik. You have to Google that if you don't know what that is.
Okay.
That light fixture is really having
fixture.
a very strong moment. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great. Yeah. Lighting in general is a big thing. I live in Korea, as you know, and just a lot of people are really getting into their like new homes and everything, but it's a lot of the hyper modern, hyper minimalist type thing, and very bright. So,
yeah. Where you are. Yep.
Yeah. A lot of people live in apartments. There's not many people I know that live in a house, because
Right.
it's just a space issue.
Yep.
And real estate. Don't worry. They're as expensive as houses. Don't worry. These
Yeah,
apartments. Yeah. Oh my God. And, anyway, but we walk along and at night, and you can just see a bunch of bright lights all through the thing. And then like there's our home, and it's like this orange light we can see when we leave on for the cat. And there's a couple more like that. And because we like want to keep it lower usually at night, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And and I think a lot of people don't, and they come to our home, and some of our friends go, it just feels good in here. It's like, this is a good, and I go, lighting, come on,
lighting. Lighting.
But
I like the way you think, man.
Yeah, well, I don't know. So I hope that we can maybe reach out to a few Koreans here and help them think about it. I guess maybe I'll jump right to that on the minimalist thing. What do you think about that idea of these big rooms with not much in them?
Listen, I don't get asked to do a lot of modern minimalism because of where I live in practice. I live in a suburb of Philadelphia, right? So a lot of our clients are asking for more transitional, that can be slightly modern leaning. I love modern design. I really, really do. Very big where you live, and also much bigger in the cities in the United States and in Europe. Generally speaking, modern design, I think, is very sophisticated looking. For some people, it's cold, but again, it tracks back to your design fingerprint. For some people, there is not enough movement in it. There's not enough, certainly not enough, embellishment in it. I think to do it well, I think it can be very beautiful. I understand why some people find it sterile. I don't personally prefer to live in modern minimalism. I like modern, but I probably would lean more to a less austere modern for me personally. But the less you put in it, the less you put in an interior, the more brilliant you need to be in it. And I don't remember the name of the designer, but I remember being at a show house in Paris, and an Asian designer did some brilliant work with furniture that kind of morphed, and it changed shape. You could unfold the sofa and it turned into a chaise, and then it turned into a bed if you flop this over that. It was very modern, very hip, very cool. So I like it, but I understand why people don't. Just as people who love modern design would look at something, an English traditional room and think, oh, open a window, I can't stand this. There's just too much stuff in here. Yep. So I get why people crave what they have in a modern interior. And I also think, and this is just me, but I do think that what you're surrounded with starts to affect what you're attracted to. Oh. Why is it that clients that move to the United States from India are asking us sometimes to work in color palettes that are different than what a lot of my clients in Philadelphia normally ask me to work in? Why is it that clients in Dallas are asking my buddy designer, one of my buddies that is down there designing, she gets asked to do different things based upon that climate and that area.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is where you live starts to affect what you want, and what you want starts to be affected by what you see around you.
Oh, big time. You mentioned though that furniture that morphs and all that. These days, it's really hip to see a lot of these couches. They slide in the back of the cushion or something and come in, and it's more upright, and then you space it out. You can lie down on it more, so you move around like that. And I think that's born of little space. I mean, you can't.
Yes.
You're not designing a bunch of rooms. It's not like I have like 10 rooms to design. No, you've got like one living room in this house, and you just got to have one piece of furniture, and there's pretty much only one layout you can have. It's like we can't have the TV. It just doesn't work. There's no space.
Yeah, we just finished designing a home that was 45 rooms in this estate, and there's a client that wants us to talk to them about designing a home for them now. 69. Between the main residence and the pool house. So a lot of space. One of our specialties is these really big homes, but making them feel lovely and cozy.
Yeah, right. Which is a huge challenge.
So we don't have to worry about making furniture more if you just go to another room. So
yeah, got it. All right then. So what about this? This is a little general. You're looking at a room, you say, what's wrong with this thing? It's just not just right. How can I fix it? How do I even start to think about how to help this room?
Yeah, so, design has been really dumbed down by the DIY design machine. Design is expensive, it is time consuming, and to do it well, you do need to have some strategy. So to kind of like bring it full circle to where we started, I think you have to educate yourself. Either you hire somebody who knows what they're doing, who can do it for you. And if that's not aligned with your values or your budget, then you need to educate yourself. And I'm not talking about just, reading a blog post, because like I said, I write blogs, and there's not much you can do in a watered down 300 or 400 word blog post. I think I've read that in 2 minutes, you say about 600 words, right? So what can you really communicate in 2 minutes of speech? That's how much you can communicate in a quick blog post, right?
Yep.
So I think you need to educate yourself and, take a course, take an online course with someone like me, take a course in a local college, if that's more your thing. But if you really want to seriously move the needle for yourself, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting the result you've been getting. And I wish there was a shorter answer for me to give you, Matthew, but there really isn't. Design is very strategic. It's very formulaic. And when you know those strategies, when you know those formulas, you can design a 1-room apartment, you can design a 25-room home, and anything in between. Strategy is strategy. And I encourage people to get their hands on it. A lot of people put more time and effort into planning their vacation to Disney Europe or Disney US than they do in figuring out what to do with the money that they're going to be spending to beautify their environment that you live in, day out, wake up in, come home to. I think that deserves attention because, as we started saying earlier in our talk, the way we function and feel inside the 4 walls of our body is absolutely affected by and pushed by what we live in. Every minute of every day, your home is exerting an influence on you. So like I always like to say, stack the deck in your favor.
Yes, exactly. And like you say, you don't learn anything necessarily in blog posts. They're helpful to do those exercises that you want me to do, to have some ideas and all that. Yeah. Maybe practical ideas on the end. But if you want to learn about anything, I talk about on the show, Think and Thrive, right? So what I mean is, if you want to get good health, you don't just read a health blog. You got to find out how does the body work? How does nutrition work? You got to find out fundamentally what works, and then start to assess what people are saying on blogs and all that stuff. So you have to educate yourself. And the same thing is true with interior design. You're going to be living in a home somewhere for your whole life. So you're going to have to redo it all the time and adjust it. And, life changes and so will your home. So if you don't know how to do it on the fundamental level, right. I'm just agreeing with you, down with educate yourself. I love that whole thing. Maybe, how about maybe a couple more if you're all right? Yeah. How about this? Is there a particular room or a general aspect of the house, like say walls, windows, a piece of furniture, say that we ought to prioritize if we're on a limited budget and we can only afford to do one thing? I guess, what's the most high leverage thing we can do to affect the look and feel of our home?
Yes, paint color is like the cheapest, fastest, down and dirty way to exert a very immediate influence on any room to change your room. So saying earlier, accessorization also really big. And that doesn't mean a lot of accessories. It just means the right things, right size, right proportion, right placement. So I think those are some power areas to look to. In terms of rooms that are important, the most ignored room in most homes is the master bedroom because it's not a public space, which is such a shame because we spend a lot of time there. So I'd love to encourage people to at least get in there and do, even if it's some down and dirty redo with a great new fresh, paint color and bedding and so forth. But I think the most important rooms in your home definitely are going to be your kitchen, whatever that living space is, if it's a kitchen living room sort of something. And I think the bedroom is very important. And I also think now, with more of us working from home, I think the home office is very important. And a lot of people are responding to this pandemic now by, oh my gosh, all of a sudden I have to work from home, never did before. So they're cramming a home office into a corner of their bedroom. Kiss of death. Or they're trying to work on their kitchen table. So there's just, there's no room for them. I think that there's some stress that people are going to be feeling until they figure out how to create a good feeling, high functioning home office. So I think that's becoming a more and more important element for people too.
Very good. Thank you. A quick one on plants. What do you think about plants in general as far as accessorizing?
Love
I
them.
don't think people pay attention to them too much. Some people.
Well, I think my design divas, my that's what we call our community. Yeah. They tease me because I've been a little vocal about not loving faux greenery, but it's if you get a high quality faux plant, I've come over to the dark side. I prefer a live plant, and I think we just wrote a blog post on this. I don't know when it's publishing, but there are some plants that are no-brainers, and even if you don't have a green thumb, you can grow them. And then some plants that are total brats. Do not want to go near like a fern. They're impossible. And fiddle leaf figs are having their big moment. We love putting them in, and as designers, we put them in our room shots. They look amazing, but that plant will flip you the bird really quickly if you don't water it exactly perfectly. So, you have to be brave with the fiddle leaf fig, but there are other plants, that I think are great and easy. Succulents are easy. And plants definitely not only add a great organic hit to a space, but they add a freshness. And I think they're wonderful. I see you have one in your workspace. I think they're wonderful in workspaces. If not a live plant, live flower, love orchids. They're low cost. They last for weeks.
They last forever.
A couple of ice cubes a week. I see you have them too. Yeah.
We've got a purple one just like yours out there.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. So I really, we do a Facebook Live every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we were on with our peeps today, and plants came up, and I was pro plant. I think they're great in bathrooms as well, master baths as well as small, half baths and that sort of thing. So I think plants are great. However, I think you need to pick your poison, and 2 plants is good. 3, you might be kind of starting to look like the old lady with too many cats. So not too many plants in one room. Floor plant, something on a tabletop, maybe a live flowery thing. That's plenty until you get to your next space. Okay,
I just want, maybe this might interest you just because you just said too many plants. I want to second that. We had one woman who sold us like a tree, in effect, like a big plant from her place. They came and delivered it, and then she liked the way our home looked, and she wanted to have use our home for like a TV program she was going to do, advertise her place. So the idea was they would come in, and then they go to this, they moved all the stuff out and have it all bare, and then she comes in and then arranges it all, right? And then that's what it was going to look like. Well, it turned out they brought in way more plants than what our home actually looked like, and I was not happy with what it looked like. And then I'm on TV, and it's like, people think this is my home, and it's like, no, this is not at all. They just came in and took so it was we're kind of blindsided by it. And I thought the few that we had looked good, and that's why she liked it. But then they came in and killed it with too many. So it's like a jungle in there.
It's like a jungle. It becomes distracting. Same thing with people are not going to like this. Same thing with family photos. If you have 8 billion of them in a room, nothing's important. Pick your top 3, your top 5, and if you just can't decide and you're afraid you're going to insult your mother-in-law, get one of those electronic frames that you can program with 1,500 images or 100 images, and let it just kind of cycle through. too much of anything and nothing matters anymore, right? So I think you have to be selective. So plants and photos, family
I
photos.
hear it. If it's too many, you're not choosing what's important. I like it.
It becomes noise. Yeah.
Let me give you this final one before we go on to a few of the details at the end, just
Sure.
where people can find you and stuff. One more here. How do you, Donna Hoffman, think about your own home? That means what is important to you and what are you trying to express and enjoy through your home?
Yeah. So home for me is haven, it's nest. I think it's really the most soulful place for regenerating. Our design studio is here in our home. We do not open our home up to clients. It's hard enough for me to have my staff here throughout our home. We've got a big team. Home to me is very sacred, and I think for me, home is an extension of who I am, how I live, how I want to live, how I want to feel. And absolutely, my home, it definitely brings me a sense of peace and a sense of joy. The beauty that's in that home. We didn't even talk about artwork, but art is so powerful. Something that you find beautiful. It doesn't have to be expensive. You could have gotten it from, flea market. But if you find it beautiful and you drink that in, you look at that, right over my desk is a great piece of artwork I found with a fantastically talented artist, street artist from New York City. So crafting beauty around you to lift yourself in life, I think, is so powerful. And we don't live in a very easy world, and we live in a world that has a lot of beauty in it, but we also live in a world that doesn't have there's some ugliness there too. And I think if you're a sensitive, an empath, an HSP, or just somebody who appreciates beauty, I think you have a sensitivity to you. If any of that is true about you, being in the world is not always the easiest thing in the world, right? Because you turn on the news and it's pretty depressing. So I think for me, home is a place where you can control what that visual energy is and what that aesthetic energy is and what the sensibility and the feeling of that space is. And especially if you are sensitive, and I am, I think it's as necessary to living and feeling good as breathing and drinking water and eating well.
Well, I'm 100% behind all of that. Now, before I ask you where people can find you and that stuff, like art, for example, artwork, is there something I didn't ask you about that you wanted to make sure you discussed or anything? Or
yeah, just with art, there are so many powerful things you can do with artwork. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money at all. It's not what you spend, it's what you do with what you spend. The biggest kick with artwork is proportion. You can make a much better statement by doing fewer, larger pieces, and you can find things online. You can find things on Etsy. We just released, it's really for our students, but we made it public for a little while, this really cool artwork cheater guide that just is like a fire hose of ideas for how to create artwork when you have no talent and you don't have a lot of money either, where to find it, and how to put it together. Artwork, beautiful art does not have to be for the wealthy. Every woman, every man in their home should have things that you find beautiful, and artwork is a powerful anchor in every single room. And the less you spend on the room, the bigger the artwork, the cooler the artwork, the more $1 million like your room will become. And it could be a piece of art you spent $50 on or $89 on. Again, it's not what you spend, it's what you do with what you spend.
All right. Well, there's another high leverage thing you can help to bring raise the level of your home. So thanks for all of that too.
Sure.
Let's see then. So I want to say to listeners, just before I ask you where they can find you, I say to listeners, you've heard Donna, you've heard how she thinks about this. I mean, your home is a place where you have control over how you see the world and what kind of world you create around yourself. So and other people need this kind of advice and need this thinking. So share this interview with people who you think would benefit from listening to it or enjoy it. Obviously, you don't like the questions I asked. You want to know something else? Well, go ahead and ask a question. Get in the comments section, ask questions there. You can also go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/MatthewBolton.ca. Ask a question, obviously likely for Donna. And if it's anything directed to her, I will redirect to her. Now, Donna, where should people go if they want to connect directly with you or learn more about you and all of your work?
Sure, yeah. So you can find us certainly our website, which is theinteriordesignadvocate.com. And if you go to the Learn Design Online tab, you'll see the courses that we offer, really great selections there. You can also find me on Instagram with the Interior Design Advocate brand, but our handle is at decorating.genius. That's at decorating.genius. And if you want to see what kind of mischief we're up to in our luxury design company, that's just Interiors by Donna Hoffman. And you would find us there. Or that Instagram handle is at IDH Designs. That's at IDH, like I like interiors, D like Donna, H like Hoffman, at IDH Designs. So we've got our luxury design brand, our online education brand, slightly different flavors to both of them, but I'm there behind both of them as well.
Excellent. And people can find those in the show notes, all the links there. We'll have all that.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what else? If you like one of the courses that you see, don't buy it right there. Go to our blog at theinteriordesignadvocate.com, and that right now we have current 20% off coupons, so you can use one of those to take the price down a little bit on one of our courses and have a little more money to spend on a new plant or something else Matthew mentioned during this interview.
Excellent. All right. Well, Donna, I learned a lot from this, and I just enjoyed myself a lot. So thank you very much for coming on.
I loved it. Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay. To everybody else, go to Interiors by Donna Hoffman. Learn how to think constructively and creatively about how to optimize the spaces you live in and make your home and life beautiful as you deserve. I'll see you guys next time.
Mr. Brightside, your time out to refresh, refuel, and refocus your mind and energy toward building an optimistic framework for flourishing. Life is good. It's up to you to choose the bright side.